Chief Davis, thank you for having us here today. Would love to start just by talking a little bit about your 100-day plan and why we're here, why you wanted to involve media so heavily in this process.
Well, because you're one of the partners that we want to reach out to. I think it's important to hear from different voices throughout the community, internally and externally, on how we can do better. So this 100-day plan is about, I've been here for 7 weeks now, so I've had an opportunity to kind of sit back a little bit, look at what's going on, attend a million meetings, feels that way, and kind of look at the organization as a whole and learn a little bit about the structure of the organization. But this is really that next step in that, of talking one-on-one with officers, groups of officers, talking to the community, being more engaged with the community, talking with our media partners. How can we have a better relationship? What do you need from the police department? How would you like to see things evolve? So that's what it's about, is looking at those different relationships we have and how we can grow from those. And then what this plan will allow us to do is, after that 100 days, and we start recognizing these themes throughout, which we will, because the communities will hear the same thing, and the officers will probably share the same views on a lot of things, but how do we bring that information back and truly make some change there within that?
Talking about that you've had some time to look at the organization now, several weeks into the job, if you ask a random Austinite on the street, or let's say 10 Austinites, what they think of the Austin Police Department, you might get 10 different answers. You coming into this role as the chief, what are some of the words that come to mind of the department and the state of the department that you inherited?
What comes to mind is dedication, commitment. I think they are a department that for the last 4 years has felt not supported and reluctant, maybe. There's been some hesitancy on how am I moving forward doing my job? What am I supposed to do as an officer in situations? So I think what I'm coming into is a group of officers who are, policing is a noble profession. It just is. And the majority of officers here do a fantastic job daily. And when we have bad actors here, we need to get rid of them. I mean, it's as simple as that. We need to discipline and we need to correct, but we have to be fair and impartial about that moving forward. And it always has been. I'm not saying that it hasn't, but from my perspective, when I look at discipline, I look at the department, and when you talk about officer wellness, when you're seeing an officer struggling, and you're looking at an officer that may have several complaints or have a lot of sick time usage, those type of things, that is an officer that needs some intervention. And so it could simply be as a change of scenery to another sector, those type of things, those changes. That's true officer wellness, is when you're really looking at the whole thing. So when I look at the department, it is a fantastic department that does some great work, a lot of great work that doesn't even get recognized or they don't talk about. That's not being done anywhere else across the country. From the way we do victim services, those things is very impressive as an agency. So I look at it as a challenge. I want to make things better. I want to come in and, again, raise morale. I want to get recruitment up. All those things that when I took this job and I interviewed for this job were important to the city manager and the mayor. Those are things that they talked about being important. That's what's important to me, and that's what the focus is from this 100-day plan, is how do we get to those spots where we're addressing morale and recruitment. We're looking at a crime strategy, and then we're looking at community engagement involving all these different partners, all these different entities, and then what is the capacity of our department to make and implement those changes? What do we need to make these changes? And so that's an exciting thing for me to be able to kind of look at all of that.
You mentioned that the department has, I believe your words were, has not felt supported over the last 4 years. Michael Bullock, I know you've met several times, would probably finish that sentence by saying they haven't felt supported by the Austin City government, by the Travis County District Attorney. You put in the 100-day report that one of the groups, much like the media, that you want to have a developed relationship with is city leaders, are these stakeholders in the community, including these politicians. How do you see the dynamic that you will play as chief of police in both representing the needs of police and, as city council was very clear in hiring a police chief, saying someone who's going to work with the council one-on-one?
I think we have to work with, I'm going to work with everybody. I think we have to hear differing opinions, and that's important to me. But council wants the same thing as the police, right? We want a safer Austin, and we want policing that's fair and it's equitable, right? And how do we get there? And are we there? What do we need to do? That's where it is. So the council, what they do, we have 10 different districts, and each of them have very different probably priorities, right? They're all different. So to me, it's about working with that individual council member, working one-on-one with them and their office. What are your priorities? How can the police help you achieve what you need to achieve within your district? And I think that is important to me. And they need to know my goal is when crime occurs in a district, they're going to get a phone call from me that, hey, a serious violent crime has occurred in your district. I want you to hear it before it's broadcast on the news. And so they can start talking to their stakeholders and fielding some questions themselves. So that is an important relationship. And I think when they know that our goals are, again, to be fair and equitable, to deliver good police services with good customer service, that is when you start building relationships and you build trust.
Talking a little bit more about the role that you play. So I was there at the scene of the OIS last week. I wasn't there at the press conference yesterday, but I did watch the press conference. Mm-hmm. And it seemed that the sort of air in the room and the attitude that you fostered was, we're doing things different now. That we're not going to give you half the information. We're going to give you all the information up front. Do you see yourself as playing a different position than past chiefs in doing that, or is that kind of just the perception?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the power of having someone from the outside. I'm not really sure how it was done before. I know what works well for me and the way that I like to see it done, which is getting the information out as quickly as possible. I think that just adds to the legitimacy and the accountability piece of this and transparency that we need. And it's good for the officers too. I think when we can do it safely, we can do it within the limits of the law, we need to get those facts out. And when we're able to show video and we're able to show those things that support those things, it's important. And the quicker we do that, I think is important. And that's where moving forward, we're going to try to move. And we're going to leave in place the whole 10-day, because there may be incidents where it's going to take that long. But I think it's definitely doable, and they did it. And we have a fantastic PIO team here. They did it. So how do we move forward? Just getting that information out quicker to answer questions.
Again, speaking about your role, I forget if I asked you this when you first were interviewing for the position, but the chief of Austin Police is a very unique position in that Austin and its government, is the perception that it is very progressive, very left-leaning, but we're in the state capital, and your actions as chief of police are going to be scrutinized by the legislature, by the governor, by these figures who have had so much scrutiny over Austin and Austin politics. As the legislature is coming back here in a couple of months, are you ready to handle that role? Have you had any interaction with these state leaders and state officials?
I have not. So, again, I welcome different voices, different opinions, but I'm about a safer Austin is what I'm about. And I'm about doing that through strategy, about I'm not someone, we're not going to go over police neighborhoods. We're going to be use data to our benefit. We're going to be where we need to be. We're going to go where the data shows us we need to be. We're going to look at problems, and we're going to be problem solvers. And I think no matter what side of the aisle you're on, I don't know how you can argue with that. And it is going to be about safety, and it's going to be about how we all deserve to live in a safe neighborhood. And that's what we're going to try to deliver on, is that along with some collaboration with the community, because we can't solve these problems, and we're not going to solve everything. We're just not. But when we work together with community and the businesses here, we can solve some problems.
Going back to, I know Michael Bullock does not speak on your behalf, but another person that he has cited and other officers have expressed some criticisms of is the Travis County District Attorney, who was just reelected to his office for the sort of police accountability initiatives that he has taken on. Have you interacted with him, and what relationship do you want to have with the Travis County District Attorney's office? Yeah,
we have met a few times now, and we plan on having a monthly meeting. I think it's important. He is a state actor like me, so we are looking at criminals. We're looking at making a safer Austin. And so how do we look at processes in place? How do we look at things that have gone on in the office, and how I can help move the organization forward? That's important. I don't want to see officers getting indicted. I don't want to see the lives ruined from that. And how can I help that as far as here, right? Whether that's looking at the way we do things. I want to do that. I don't want to see, how do we move forward from this? Officers have a job to do. And so when they're feeling like this is something, there's again, these families, you think about officers going to a job that itself is stress-inducing. It's a lot of anxiety for these family members to see their loved ones kind of walk out the door, and what are they going to be dealing with? We've got to look at our training, make sure our training is top-notch. We have fantastic trainers at the academy, just world-class. They're fantastic. As well as what are our policies, what are our procedures? All those things are going to be looked at on how we do business. Do we need to look at our use of force policy and how we change those things? How we look at discipline as an organization. And those are things that's going to be important to me. And about officer wellness. How are we looking at an employee that may have some, again, sick time usage or a lot of uses of force? What is going on with that person? There needs to be some kind of intervention there to possibly save a career, or when you talk about getting indicted. Those type of things are important. And if we say we value the officer's wellness, those are things we have to do.
You talked about in your 100-day plan accountability and what that looks like. Obviously, again, the Austin that you inherited is a very changing Austin, not least of all because of the ongoing, at the time, ongoing negotiations over the police contract and the implementation of the Austin Police Oversight Act, things like that. In the 100-day plan, you touch a little bit on citizen accountability rather than the Office of Police Oversight, for example. How do you see the best way that citizens can be accountable for the police department?
It's interesting because in Cincinnati we had the collaborative agreement, and the collaborative agreement was something that it brought the police, the Fraternal Order of Police, the city government, and the Black United Front, representing the citizens of Cincinnati, together to look at a collaborative agreement. It's never been done. I don't think it's been done since. And so all of these changes were agreed upon, and with the help of some federal monitors. But one of the things within that was the role that the citizen plays. When you're making false reports against officers, when you're doing those things, there's a role that the citizens play in solving problems. They'll problem solve with the police. And so when I look at what the citizens' involvement is going to be, that's what I'm talking about, is how we look at problems together moving forward. So, I use Burton. There's a street segment on Burton Avenue that we've had a few homicides at, and I've had some robberies there. So when we're looking at this street segment, what is the owners of those buildings, the people who live there, how are we going to bring them in to help us solve these problems here? And again, they may be in some different, some small locations throughout, but how are we all going to work together to solve these problems? And that's true problem solving, is when we're all in this together, because it is not, crime and disorder is not just a police problem, it is everybody's problem.
I'll admit that I don't know how Cincinnati's police department operated on a day-to-day basis. Did you guys have something similar to the G file where you had, and where do you stand on the idea of G files being public today?
Yeah, no, we never had. I mean, that's nothing I'd heard before I came here. I think at the end of the day, when you're a government employee, you're a city employee. I think the scary part for officers is the fact that you can have these unsustained or not sustained allegations, and anyone can make an allegation. And just by virtue of just making that allegation, I think it's a scare factor for these officers to come and think that, my gosh, someone made these horrible allegations, which end up not being true, but now it's out there, and what's the thought? And I think that's kind of scary to officers. So I'm not going to begin to think, what their fear is over this or what they're going to say, but it's not something that I'm familiar with. And in Cincinnati and Ohio, it was all public record anyway. So it will be interesting moving forward because everything is public at this point. Past and forward, it's all public. So now just working with that and getting these requests out, that's what we're working on now, because you talk about the man hours needed to produce these documents. It's something that we're working on, but it is a big job. But there's that's part of that accountability. The Austin spoke, they voted on this, and it's happening. It's part of the contract. It's here, and it's something we have to deal with. So I feel for the officers when you're talking about not sustained, how that can hurt you and your family, but that's where we are as an organization, as a city.
Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and get the latest news by downloading the CBS Austin News app.